Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today I'm going to review the Blu Ray and 4K edition of Color Out of Space. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I'll put out videos daily. You can also find me over Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Movie Guy 365, as well as over at the Disney Magic Hour podcast. I'll put a link for that in the description. Also, if you want a chance to win a free Blu-ray and 4K combo pack of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, in order to enter, all you need to do is be subscribed to my channel. You need to like this video, and you need to hashtag Movie Guy 365 in the comments section of this video or any video between now and March 31st, 2020. I will select somebody randomly on April 1st, so good luck. All right, the Blu-ray and 4K combo pack of Color Out of Space is here, and we're going to talk about the picture quality and the audio. We're going to do that separately, so if you want to check the Blu-ray and the 4K separately, I'm going to go ahead and put chapter times right over there and give you my overall impressions. Before we do anything, let's do a quick unboxing. Okay, we have the Color Out of Space Blu-ray / 4K combo pack here, and as you see, you've got a nice little hollow type cover. It's pretty nice graphic overall, really cool. Be careful, I've heard people, when they take off the sticker, it can kind of peel the coloring and the artwork off. So if you want to remove this sticker, be very careful when you do so. The rear cover here, and then we have, and then interior, it's essentially the same. So just little certificate there, get rid of that. But yeah, all right, cool, excellent. Now let's talk about the picture quality and the audio. Okay, so for the Blu-ray picture quality of Color Out of Space, I feel that while the movie was shot digitally, it definitely has a lot of strengths going for it and a couple weaknesses. So first off, let me touch on what I really liked about it. And a lot of it has to do with the aesthetic and how it was shot. I'm really going to expand upon this in the 4K review. But here, I just loved the overall atmosphere of the film. And I think the way it was shot lends itself very nicely to a clean overall picture. Now, there is a bit of digital noise. In fact, it's very prominent. So if that's something that's going to bother you, it's definitely one of those things. Now, I'm kind of wondering if this was an artistic choice. Kind of give it that like slightly retro type of feel to it. It's not as clean as it could be, but it definitely has kind of like almost like a tinge to it. It's like some sort of vintage look. But it definitely, unfortunately, I would say digital noise is a little bit prominent, which once again I'll touch more upon on the 4K aspect. Color levels are good. They're really nicely rendered here. I feel, it's a very colorful movie, as by the name. There's a lot of things going on, especially the prominent color of pink is a big component to this look of the film. So I feel that those scenes are handled really nicely. Black level scenes, nighttime scenes are very elevated. They're not very deep. They're not dark. You know, there's more of those scenes than there aren't, and it's just one of those things that the Blu-ray, as far as HD 1080p goes, it's always kind of struggled in that aspect, and I feel here it definitely does more so than others. Level of detail is good. It's a good overall look, but it definitely has a couple problems with just the softness and that sort of thing. Okay, so let's get the big elephant out of the room. This movie, Color Out of Space on 4K, does not contain any HDR. No Dolby Vision, so that extra little bit of oomph you're not getting here, and it's a bit unfortunate. I'm going to touch on that more in just a second. But from what I've heard, the way it was in post-production, that the studio whatever got their hands on it, just due to cost, or was not able to utilize HDR, which is sorely missed here. But the film was shot in native 4K, so we have that going for it. So what are the inherent differences between a Blu-ray and a 4K as when you strip away that HDR and Dolby Vision? I'm going to tell you there's some, but it's not eye-popping. It's nothing that's really going to be like, oh, I have to absolutely go out and get that 4K. If you're satisfied with the Blu-ray image, I think this probably, it's gonna satisfy you in that degree. Now, I will say black levels are handled a little better, but they do get elevated. And once again, I think it's more or less kind of the way the style of the movie was shot. But and those bright moments of pink and those color aspects through the film, they're good. They're very strong, but you definitely are missing that HDR aspect. So that really is kind of like, this would have been a perfect movie for it. I mean, the movie itself is gorgeously shot, and there's so much atmosphere here. Black levels being kind of elevated also takes away from it. And I would say level of detail is probably the strongest. It's one of the strongest things that have this 4K image has going for it. It's not as soft. There's a fair amount of good detail, you know, skin textures, you know, just the general area, the house. They look a little bit better, but with that kind of, you know, cool thing going for it, also the digital noise is once again very prominent in this film. It's just kind of, it's just one of those things. It's just, you know, you're almost like robbing Peter to pay Paul, like with your artistic style. So you have that going for you, but then you have a couple detriments, you know, going against it. It's not a bad image, but I think what you kind of want to know is it going to be a huge difference over the Blu-ray? I don't personally think so. I think, you know, I've demoed materials before when you take away the HDR and you compare it against a Blu-ray versus a 4K. There's minute differences, but nothing mind-blowing. But you do have a film shot native in 4K. That's always a welcome thing. But, you know, once again, that's really going to be up to your personal preference. If that's something you really want to invest in as far as like go for the 4K combo pack. Thankfully, the price isn't outrageous. You're not paying $30 for this kind of thing. It's really kind of like, you know, sitting around that $18 mark, $17 mark. So, and it comes with the Blu-ray. But it is what it is. I still think it looks good in its own rights, but it's not going to be a mind-blowing difference over the standard Blu-ray. Both the Blu-ray and the 4K support a DTS 5.1 audio mix. It's a good track for the most part. It really has a lot going for it, especially up fronts. The rears don't really seem to have much to do. I was actually struggling at points to really find some good, you know, rear action. I mean, it happened, of course, when there's a lot going on screen, but general ambience is pretty much nothing. There's not a whole lot going on. It's really relegated up front. Center channel, for the most part, it's good. There's a lot of clean dialogue, but there's also a lot of scenes when there's stuff going on. There was an entire scene I really couldn't understand what people were saying in any kind of, you know, coherent sense. So it was just a little bit muffled, a little bit just, you know, too much action going on. The audio for the people speaking was not turned up properly. So that was also not a very positive aspect here of the audio mix. The fronts, they do a good job. You know, there's a lot going on. Even the quieter moments, it's handled properly. LFE kicks in, I would say not a huge bunch, but during that climax and during I would say more of the back half of the film, you get a rumble or two. It's just nothing that's going to be overly aggressive. And as I mentioned earlier, the surround sounds are probably the weakest aspect of the audio mix in this particular case. Okay, so for the scores now, I'm going to go ahead and give the Blu-ray picture quality a B+. I think it's pretty strong. It has a lot of issues as far as black levels being elevated. I never felt like they were really particularly dark, and the whole film kind of has a grayishness to those particular levels. So it's not a fantastic look, but I think the aesthetics, how the film was shot, just general surroundings, I'm you know, it gives it a bit of a bump up there in as far as the score goes. Now the digital noise is also a problem. I probably would have scored this a little higher, maybe an A minus, if that digital noise was a little bit, you know, more subtle. But as it is, I think for a Blu-ray picture quality, a B+ is very strong. Now the 4K picture quality, I'm also going to give that a B+. The lack of HDR really shows here, but it gives you a nice A and B comparisons for those if you want to see what native 4K looks versus a Blu-ray image. You're going to get differences. They're just not going to be mind-blowing. That's why really at the end of the day, HDR and Dolby Vision are such a valued aspect of, you know, 4K and the formats. It really adds that extra layer. This movie would have been perfect for it. Why it wasn't included, you know, whether it was cost or creatively, we don't know exactly, but I think it's a strong disc, but once again, it's not perfect and it does have some issues. Audio mix, I'm going to give that B-. It's okay. It's a good 5.1, but mostly all your stuff is going to be happening up front. The rears don't get a whole lot going on. There's a few scenes here and there that make use of it, but you don't get it's not overly aggressive in that respect. Considering what happens in the back half of the film, no spoilers, I would have expected more. I would have expected to like kind of be immersed, and unfortunately that just didn't happen in my case. So that's my review of Color Out of Space. Let me know in the comments below if you had a chance to check out the Blu-ray in 4K, and what did you think of it? I'm very curious to hear that in the comments. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos every single day. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.